Are you the person everyone asks for travel advice, recommendations, and itineraries? Are your DMs blowing up on the daily because everyone knows you have the inside scoop on the hottest destinations? Or are you simply just wanting to create more memorable, life changing, dare I say, transformational travel experiences for yourself and for your family? In today's episode, I speak with Henley Vasquez, the CEO of Fora. Fora is disrupting and advancing the travel industry by introducing revolutionary technology to travel advisors, allowing the travel industry to be more approachable for passionate travelers like myself to enter the industry and begin a side hustle or even a full career as a travel advisor. This conversation illuminated the evolving landscape of the travel industry, the rise of travel advisors, and the growing interest in wellness travel. We even talk about the rise in off the beaten path locations that may be a little closer to home than you think. Keep listening for all of this and more in this episode of Transform with Travel. Hey everyone, welcome to the Transform with Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Tolliday, and I am also the co-founder of R&R. We lead epic retreats and adventures since 2017. So travel has played a major part of the trajectory of my life since a young age. And because of this passion and love for the way that travel has changed me as a person, I now lead group travel around the world. And I'm also a travel advisor with Fora. And Fora's user-friendly, innovative platform has made it so seamless for me to enter the travel industry and bring my passion and expertise to clients looking for their next big adventure. And so I'm beyond excited and maybe a tad bit fangirling today to have the opportunity to speak with the co-founder and CEO of Fora, Henley Vasquez. Henley is a seasoned travel advisor, and she co-founded Fora in 2021, creating a platform modernizing travel advising and empowering global travel entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to discuss the ins and outs of the travel industry, how you can turn your passion for travel into a profitable side hustle or even the career of your dreams, and so much more. So thank you, Henley, for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Kelly, for having me.
Super excited. And so I would love to just start with, your professional career has been revolved around travel for so many years, and we'll definitely touch on that. But I'd love to hear from a personal level, like, what does travel mean to you? How did you become so passionate about experiencing the world?
Yeah, well, it's funny to hear you say travel played such a big part in your growing up because I think that's usually what people assume about me, but it totally didn't. I grew up on a farm in Virginia. I think I left the country twice before I went to college, like once to
Wow.
Cancun, once we drove all night to a church thing in Canada. So travel wasn't something that I had the opportunity to do a lot of when I was growing up. So when it did become a part of my life, so in college, when I was able to start traveling, I took a year off and I spent some time doing the whole European backpacking thing. And then later actually ended up living in Tokyo. And it was such an eye opener. And I think the thing that I discovered that travel meant to me is that there's something incredible about feeling at home anywhere, which is a lot to say when you grew up chasing around chickens and horses, to say that you could land almost anywhere in the world and feel comfortable. But I think that's such a special experience to have the confidence to like go out into the world. And then that became my career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that feeling of feeling at home everywhere you go, I think it's such an important like tool in your toolkit as a human, not just when you travel, but also through business or raising a family, like how to just be able to adapt and be flexible, I think is super important. And so your Instagram bio cracked me up. It says, for a co-founder, a hotel junkie, personal butler to 3 kids and a rescue dog, and travels with entourage, and then in brackets of children. And so I can so relate to feeling like a personal butler. I lovingly call myself their snack bitch. So I just like, that's all I hear all day is snack, snack, snack. Can you discuss how travel has changed for you from perhaps, those backpacker single and solo days to now having, as you say, an entourage of children?
It really is. I do feel like a bag lady of children at times, like going through airports with all 3 of them. It certainly has gotten easier as they've gotten older. But I think the thing that I decided early on was that I wasn't going to now that I discovered this whole amazing world of travel, I wasn't going to, one, let like having children mean that I didn't travel anymore, and two, let them not learn how to experience it. So my kids have grown up being schlepped around all over the country and all over the world. And I think what I have discovered is like, not only do I get to feel at home in the world, but I love how they do, and how that has instilled in them a real appreciation for different cultures. And even from a very little age, where people will say, oh, you shouldn't travel with kids so little. It's just difficult and they don't remember anything. But I do think something gets into their DNA of that flexibility, that, ability to show up somewhere and make yourself comfortable, and then just the memories that we get to make together.
Yeah. It's so hard when you do hear that from people, like, oh, they won't remember it. Why? I remember one time I was I was teaching yoga, and one of my students was talking about, oh yeah, we didn't even think about bringing our kids to, I don't think she was saying like South Africa, because they were just way too young. They would never remember it. And I was literally about to leave like the next day for like 5 weeks through Thailand with my 3-year-old and 1-year-old. I was like, cool, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Well, and that's the
Yeah.
other thing is like, it's also that everybody has the opportunity to leave their kids at home with somebody. So
Yeah.
if the choice is either you go and you go with them or you don't go at all, I'm going and they're coming
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah. And it's a mindset shift as well too. So I think that's really important. Raise your hand if you feel anxious before a travel day. I mean, just trying to pack can send even an experienced traveler into a tailspin. And don't even get me started on how nervous I can still feel on an airplane with turbulence or when I'm stuck in large crowds. Whether it's pre-travel jitters, travel day anxiety, or destination overwhelm, we have all felt the stress of travel in some way. After traveling all over the world and hosting group retreats in 7 countries, I've experienced all of the highs and lows of travel. Flight delays, natural disasters, lost luggage, toddler tantrums, being stuck in airports overnight, last-minute Airbnb cancellations, getting scammed, and so much more. With 17 years of yoga practice under my belt, 7 years of teaching and educating, and over 600 hours of training, I can truly say I've tried it all. I've learned how to apply mindfulness to navigate travel stress with presence and joy, and not let those travel mishaps and stress ruin my trip as a whole. Because of my unique experience of blending travel and wellness, I'm here as your trusted co-pilot to help you experience the vacation of your dreams by applying the principles of mindfulness. So I'm so excited to announce today that we've officially launched our latest ebook, The Mindful Traveler: How to Navigate Travel Stress with a Smile. This ebook is jam-packed with practices, strategies, techniques, journal prompts, and so much more. And it was designed to guide you to a more easeful travel experience no matter what happens on the road. There's even a meditation for turbulence and anxious flyers. So download the ebook today at www.transformwithtravel.co, that's .co, and get 10% off your order by using the code LAUNCH10. Embark on a journey of tranquil travels with our new ebook, The Mindful Traveler. You can get it at www.transformwithtravel.co, and be sure to use the code LAUNCH10 for 10% off your order. Speaking of like changing your travels from, those free spirited days backpacking to traveling with children, the travel industry itself has evolved a lot, and especially post-pandemic. I know it's like the dreaded P word. They were talking about pandemic and COVID and all the things, but truly the travel industry is one of the biggest things that have been rapidly transformed in the last 4 years. And so I'd love to hear from your perspective, like how has it shaped and evolved and changed, and how have the clients or the travelers' needs changed over the last 4 years?
Yeah, a few things. I'd say there are really sort of two big things that I saw shift. One is obviously pandemic. As the world started opening up again, it was very complicated to travel. There were the concerns about borders opening and closing again, what kind of testing was required. I actually had moved down to Costa Rica in 2021. So I was going back and forth between there. So people were like, okay, so like, how are you doing this?
Right.
And travelers realized that it was complicated and they needed somebody to help guide them and also to advocate for them when something did go wrong, when they needed a refund because the border closed. The other thing that happened is obviously we see social media and we look on Instagram and there's so much information already online. Like you can just dive into a Google hole to try to figure out what is the right restaurant to eat at in Lisbon. And you can see a lot of pictures on social media about it, but what's the real deal? People really wanted someone else to do the work for them in terms of understanding the ins and outs of a destination. They also wanted to know the real deal. And we all have that Instagram versus reality of like, it looks like this, but the experience is this. How do you match make me to the right experience for me that's real, not just what I see online? And so the need for travel advisors boomed, while at the same time, the industry is aging. The industry is not evolving from a tech standpoint. And that was really where we came in and said, what can we do to sort of pull this up into the next generation?
I find that so true about the need for that real, like, what's the real process? What's it really going to be like? And even when we run group travel, like, I'm not an expert in Peruvian travel. I'm an expert in bringing people to cool places and holding a container and building itineraries. However, like, when I work with my Peru advisor,
Yep.
she's like, no, you don't want to jump from this city to that city in the same day. Like, that's way too much. They're gonna, the acclimatization, like, it's like those little details that you can get from somebody who specializes in traveling to Peru or specializes in Ireland. Like, those are the types of ways to take someone from just going on vacation to having life-changing memories. And so I think that's really special. I've also talked to a lot of people, obviously, in the travel industry with this podcast, but the need of flexibility. Like, people are very wary about putting their credit cards down for like a trip 6 months away. Like, people are booking. We had 3 people book for our Portugal retreat within 5 weeks of actually leaving. One of them didn't even have their passport yet. They had to get like a renewed passport. So people are very wary. I don't know if you've seen that as well, like the need for flexibility, the need for last minute cancellations, like all of that. Has that been something you've seen?
For sure. We all got into a bit of that last minute planning routine when, again, we didn't know what it was going to look like a month from now. And although certain parts of the industry have changed, so people who are booking cruises, for example, are booking much farther out. People who are booking safaris are probably booking farther out. But still, when I looked at the data of last summer and summer travel, we wanted to see what were the busiest booking months for that June to September. And you know what the busiest month was? It was June. So
Wow.
we actually could see the bookings for summer climb over the course of the spring. And June was the biggest month when people actually pulled the trigger and booked something for June, July, and August. So
Wow.
that trend has not gone away. And that is the perfect example of a place where you really want to be able to hand this over to somebody. Hey, I want to go to this place. Can you find me what's still available, what fits my budget, and what fits my vibe?
Yeah, 100%. Busy, working mom isn't going to have the time to do that research, but she still wants to provide those memories for those kids. So that's the benefit of working with
Exactly.
a travel advisor. Awesome. And so you've mentioned Fora. Obviously, you're the CEO. And so you were mentioning how the industry hasn't 100% been transitioning to the same level of tech and the level of advance, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like, the industry itself hasn't been advancing the way that it needed to, and you saw a need for that along with your business partners. I would love for you to just chat about like what Fora is, what makes it different, and I guess like what were some of those pain points that you were seeing for the industry and how Fora solved those problems.
Yeah, we say Fora is the modern travel agency, but what does that really mean?
Right.
Is that means we are building a platform to modernize the agency industry. So we wanted to create something that had a place where advisors could come to learn the job, could come to have a platform to do their job more efficiently. So to discover, to book, to connect with the community. Community is an incredibly important part of what we do. And then to have the flexibility to build the business that they wanted, because traditionally the industry has quite strict standards in terms of you have to hit really high sales targets. You can only get in if you quit your full-time job. And what we saw is a lot of people like you who knew quite a bit about travel, but they had other things that they were doing and they didn't want to leave those things. They still loved their job in tech or their job in wellness or their job as a lawyer, and maybe they couldn't afford to just quit that and hope they could still pay their bills and take those kids on trips around the
Yes.
world. So planning travel became a layered part of what work meant to them. And it often is a choice that people make because they love doing it, but they also want to do it for work. So some end up transitioning to a full-time job, but a lot of them are doing it in combination in something else. And that was pretty revolutionary. No, maybe not quite as much as the technology that we're building, but a big part of it.
Now, that's 100% my experience with it. It was like, I get messages almost daily, like, hey, I'm going to Ireland. What would you recommend? Hey, I'm doing so. And I'm like, how many times can I like type out the same message over and over again? And now there's an opportunity for me to not only be able to share my expertise, but also be able to get paid for that. And it's a completely complementary avenue for me with the job that I already have. So I was so excited to be able to see this as an offering. And just as you said, like Fora is offering a new flexible career path. It's making travel advising approachable. It's making it inclusive. And you also mentioned the tech side of it.
Yeah.
So combining the power of AI with also like my own personal feedback of being at Muckross Hotel in Killarney, Ireland. Like those are like the two things that you guys are bringing together. So can you talk about how Fora is actually utilizing the power of AI? This episode is brought to you by Bite and Coffee. Many of you know that my husband is Australian and I lived in Oz for 5 years. I knew when I moved back home I would miss the incredible Australian cafe culture. And then lucky for me, Bite and Coffee opened in my own hometown. Bite and Coffee is owned by the absolute best couple from Down Under, Dan and Kat, who moved to America with the dream of opening up a true blue Aussie cafe. Bite and Coffee offers up the best coffee, Aussie meat pies, sausage rolls, delicious sandwiches, and homemade pastries and desserts. They also have fun community events like trivia, karaoke, expat nights, and more. If you're living or visiting in South Florida, be sure to check out Bite and Coffee, located in Lighthouse Point. That's BYTE and Coffee, located in Lighthouse Point.
Sure. So before we get into AI, like this industry was so backwards that my CTO, when he saw how I collected credit card information, it was on like Post-its. People were texting me pictures of my credit of their credit cards. He was like, "Hold on, what do you do?
Right?
It's how it works." So before we could launch into building really cool stuff, with machine-based learning, we also had to just start with like simple things like how do you collect a credit card and store it securely, which we did. We built the vault so that now our advisors can text or email a link and it gets stored and they can use it or link it up to bookings. But then we do get to start thinking a little bit bigger. And so one of the recent features we launched that I personally am obsessed with is called Sidekick. Now, Sidekick lives within our portal. And what Sidekick does is it reads all of the information. So everything that's in our training, everything that's in our help center, and everything that's in Forum, which is, we say it's kind of like a curated TripAdvisor. It's only our community and they talk constantly about travel. It is just all of the information you could ever need from a big community of travel advisors who are asking and supporting each other about different destinations. So if I don't have time to go through and look through the trainings and find that training on Bhutan and go into Forum and search, I can go into Sidekick and say, hey, Sidekick, like what are the best hotels in Bhutan that we have a partnership with and I can get perks for my clients? And it's actually going to go in and pull all of this stuff, tell me answers and give me links to where I can pull more information. So a big part of what we see tech doing, and AI specifically, is not in any way replacing the human, but actually powering the human to do their job better and faster.
I so appreciate that saying that it's not replacing the human, because when someone that I work with down here in South Florida, he always says we're just amplifying the humanity. We're amplifying what we're already doing. And I actually used Sidekick the other day. My dad's going to Norway. He has the front end and the back end of the trip, but nothing in between. So I literally just went into Sidekick. I said, what are some cool hotels or off the beaten path places to go? And it pulled in like 3 or 4 different links from Forum, from an itinerary that Fora had already created. Like it just did it all for me. And I was like, oh my God, that just saved me an hour of combing through posts. It was amazing.
Yes, that really is the goal, because again, we have advisors who are doing this very full time. I want them to be able to sell more, earn more in the same amount of time they would have put in otherwise. And then we have people who are trying to do this in combination with other things where their time is really quite curated, I'd say. It's limited. They can't just do this all the time. So how do you bang out your job more quickly, or how do you grow your business faster and more efficiently? And that's where those tools come in to help you get there.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, like what has been the feedback, or I guess the finger on the pulse of like what's going on in the industry as you start rolling these highly innovative industry disrupting tools, honestly?
Well, it's funny because our community they're mostly new to the industry. So our advisors, very few have been people who have been in the industry before. They're really excited. They see this and are like, oh my God, if only I
I
had
know.
this career. I think for our community, the funny thing is, in a way, our community of advisors are almost like, the kids that are growing up today on technology, because they are entering this industry already having that platform. So they learn fast. They build businesses quickly and efficiently. The other thing that they do is they give us great feedback. And that's so important to us to hear from our advisors. Hey, like their expectations don't align with what already existed. Their expectations align with what they want. And so that feedback that we get of saying, could it do it this way? Could we get that? It really helps. I mean, we have a huge engineering team who works very, very hard building these. And it's really inspiring to have that real-time feedback from all of these users who, again, don't have those set expectations of, I can only do it this way. They are coming in going, we want to make it better.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's why people that are drawn to you, because we are looking for that tech advance. We are looking for that community, which is a big part of what you guys talk about, is what makes Fora so amazing and so different. Is, on your website and videos and articles, like you and your team, you mention the power of community in this industry and how it's something that can be, as a person who has been a solopreneur and a freelancer, I've worked in marketing, I've done all the things a lot of times by myself. It can feel very isolating. You don't know who to ask for. You don't have a boss who's, giving you that advice on your pitch deck or anything like that. So I really like the fact that community is so strong for you and such a pillar of your brand. Can you describe why, as a travel advisor, it is so important to have a strong community?
Yeah, I think our industry has a reputation as being sharp-elbowed, which I wouldn't disagree with. There has been weirdly this culture more of competition versus collaboration. And when we started Fora, I said that's not going to be what we're doing here. There is plenty of business to go around. In fact, travel advisors only account for 8% of hotel sales worldwide. So there's a lot of space for this
Wow.
industry to grow. We are not, cannibalizing each other's businesses. Let's work together, all of us. And that means between our community, and I consider my community also to extend to the industry where, my best friends are, many times running other agencies, and we work together to share information, to grow the industry, to help each other. And that is one of the coolest things that I see within our community is all of this expertise. Like Norway, well, actually, we've got advisors who are living in Norway and they can share. We've got people who have clients who are going. We have people who have just been themselves. So always you can have that connection to someone who's going to be willing to help you out, because then when they turn around and they're asking about Florida, you're right there with that information. And I think that really builds all of us together. I do truly believe that we are stronger together from an informational standpoint. And then from an economic standpoint, the power of our sales moves the needle in terms of our commission structure. It makes a difference when you do this together.
Yeah, and also just in terms of credibility from the population as a whole, when more people have great experiences with great advisors, more people are willing to then be like, oh, they made their life easier and they had a great trip and they got me a discount on so-and-so hotel. And so I say the same thing about retreats and group travel. There's everyone and their mother's running retreats now, which is amazing. It's great. But also it's one of those things where for me, it's never about the competition. It's great. I want more people to understand the value of going on a group trip or going on a retreat or having an experienced facilitator guiding them. I think the more that we can get into that mindset of collaboration over competition, I really do think that's how industries across all verticals are moving towards. And if you are kind of more in that combative, I guess, energy, I see that customers are picking up on that a lot more. They're getting a lot more savvy about people not working together and not being willing to partner together. And so I think that's really cool that you guys are being really the leaders in that space. And so if someone who's listening is super interested in becoming a travel advisor, or perhaps they already are, but they want to switch over to become a Fora travel advisor, how long were you a travel advisor before you started this? For a really long time, right?
Yeah, I've been doing this for about 20 years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I was gonna say a couple decades, but I was like, I want to make sure I ask that first.
yes, yes,
So,
yes. And I
so
fell
in
into
your
it by accident too. So that's the other thing, is that when I came into this with the first company, I was part of the founding team at Indigare. I knew nothing about what travel agents are. I mean, the first commission check we got, we thought it was a bribe. Like, I mean, that's how confused I was. So I have learned it the hard way by having to like go it alone. And that's again why I think that power of like the training and the community and the team, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. So, having 20 plus years experience now, like if someone who's just starting out, how can they stand out amongst the sea of agents and advisors? And now that it is such a growing industry, what are some of your tips on becoming a standout best practice travel advisor?
So obviously this is a customer service business, and you have to always be thinking not so much about who am I, but how do I put myself in the shoes of my client. So not all travelers are created equal. You need to figure out what's their taste. So one of the first questions that I ask when I'm talking to a client about a trip is like, well, if they're new, tell me a few of your favorite hotels that you've stayed at in the past, because that helps me get in the mindset of, okay, they like this kind of hotel. It's not really about the hotel that I like. It's my hotel knowledge layered into their tastes. So you have to be customer service and like very detail focused. The thing that you don't need to do is be an incredible marketer. I think this is something where people get really hung up on this. They think, I need to create a new Instagram account, or I need to get a logo. And what I always say is like text 3 friends and let them know what you're doing, because the strongest marketing that you're going to be doing for your business is talking to your network. So tell them, ask them to tell their friends. That's the kind of thing you have to keep pushing on that. You don't need to be some brilliant blogger in order to be good. In fact, when I look at a lot of our top advisors, they have like a very limited presence on social media. So be good at talking to your friends and marketing that way. Don't worry about being good at different kinds of sort of accessing social and all of that. That doesn't feel right. And then make sure you do a really great job, because that's what will get the business going, is those referrals.
Yeah, I think that takes a lot of the pressure off hearing that. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to be on social media 24/7.
No, and look, if that comes natural to you, great, use it. We have advisors for that. Social media is super helpful for them. Email marketing is super helpful for them. But the most powerful way to get in front of your community is just talking. Text them,
Yeah.
talk to them in yoga class, talk to them in the dog park, talk to them in the PTA, let them know what you're doing and that you're serious about this job, and that the way that your friends, your network can support you is by booking a trip.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. I remember when I first joined back in February, I texted a couple group text to friends just being like, hey, by the way, like if you have a trip coming up, I can just look for you and see what
Mhm.
I see. It started off just being like, let me see what kind of discounts I can get you. And now people are starting to reach out like, hey, I heard you're doing XYZ. And it really is that word of mouth is super strong. I think that takes a lot of the pressure off of people wanting to enter this business, not being like, oh, well, but I'm not a travel influencer. I'm not a this, I'm not a that. So that's really good advice. I think the attention to detail piece is a really important one,
Mhm.
because when there's an opportunity for somebody to join something such as Fora, and Fora does make it so easy to, okay, there's all these itineraries, there's all these people, the partners are there, I've got all this access. It still requires you to be you, and you
Yeah.
to be the absolute best you. And so I think that's an important piece, is like the work is still there for you to like shine and show your best true nature as an agent, so that they do keep coming back. Because those trips that turn into lifelong memories, or the memories that they talk about around their family table for the rest of their life, like you're built into that forever. And so that's really important to like have those details in mind.
Yeah, and
And
I think it's also so exciting to be, yes, part of the big memories, but also part of the like, oh my God, thank you. You saved me. I didn't have time to figure out like where I was going to stay for my son's soccer tournament this weekend, and my travel agent took care of it. So it's those
exactly.
things you do really get to be a part of someone's life and their life moments, and I think that's so special.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one of the last few things I wanted to touch on was the rise. We talked a little bit about how the travel industry, specifically for like agents and all of that, and for the clients, have changed. But we've been seeing a lot, and this is something that I'm selfishly really interested in, because this is what my business is in wellness travel. And I've been
Oh yeah.
seeing a lot on LinkedIn about like there's loads of webinars on wellness travel, and how can travel agents really cater to that type of client, how business travelers are now looking for wellness to be included. So what are you seeing in that shape? Because I'm just selfishly like, how can I keep on expanding, keep on doing better and better in this?
Totally. You are in the right area. That is actually, it's one of the things I should have mentioned earlier. I mean, one of the biggest changes from pre-pandemic to post is wellness travel, because it was like pulling teeth for me to get somebody to like book a Miraval before. I mean, it was just not something like the idea of taking a trip that was focused on wellness was like kind of like I don't, like a little bit not normal. I can think of like just a handful of times that I had clients that were interested in this. Now it's the opposite. Not only are they doing the very wellness focused trips, but they expect wellness to be layered into their regular stays. So you could take something like the ranch, which just opened in Hudson Valley, that came over from Malibu. That is, this is a focused program. It is plant-based eating. It is hiking. It is stretching. It's an incredible sort of reset for you. Or you can go to Mexico and stay at an Auberge resort, but they have a partnership with The Well, which is a great wellness, a sort of spa and wellness center here in New York. So you can also be there having your margaritas, but then go and do something that's really good for yourself. So I think travelers these days, and like you said, even business travelers, wellness is so much a part of our DNA. Like, how do we actually take care of ourselves on a day-to-day basis that especially when it comes to vacation, we actually want to come back like a slightly better version of who we were, not come back and need a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that we've seen a lot with our travelers. And like you said, going to like a wellness specific hotel where there's a program, or even going to a hotel where there's a partnership with a spa or something like that. But even I'm finding people are, I want to go to Greece and I want to make sure that I can, is there a local yoga studio? Can I go for a hike? Like, people want it baked in, like you said, like it's a part of it becoming a rejuvenating experience rather than a depleting experience, which is where a travel advisor can really come in handy because you're not handling all those details. We've seen so many people come to us in the last few years because our main pillar is travel, but there's always the daily focus of
Yeah.
yoga, meditation, healthy food. We'll have hikes. It's the cultural immersion, like, but really the travel is the main point of having those connections with people can be part
Mhm.
of your healing or part of your health and all that. But yeah, it's been quite a journey of when we first started. I started running these groups 7 years ago, and people were like, "Oh, retreats are like kind of fringe, you know."
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like, oh, those are for the yoga people. And now people are starting to really understand, like, oh, this is just for anyone who wants to travel and just take it to that next level and really feel good about themselves and have fun, but also feel good, you know?
Totally. And learn something new. And I think in particular, when it comes to, okay, a lot of people may have gone to a yoga class in their neighborhood, but they go on a retreat to really like learn it and sort of take it to the next level and make it a part of what they do. Meditation is something that I think, we're all like, great, I would love to be somebody who meditated. I am distracted all the time. I'm not doing this. But a retreat is where you might actually sort of formalize that practice. Surfing retreats, hiking retreats, all of this. I think that interest in taking care of yourself and also being more active, that is like it's just in everything in travel now, which is super cool to see.
Yeah, and I almost wonder like if that also is a byproduct of COVID when everyone kind of became aware of their health
Yeah,
and their impact, their
I think
eco
so.
impact, the whole thing. How cool. So, the last thing I want to wrap up with is what, and this is probably a question you get all the time, but where are you seeing in the next like 6 to 12 months? Like, where are you seeing are starting to be? I'm super interested in more off the beaten path type
Yeah.
style places, or like places that maybe some people haven't even heard of before. But where are you seeing in terms of like the mass trends of what people are looking to experience or places to go?
Yeah, I think, look, obviously like Italy is going to always be popular,
Right.
but something that we noticed in our data after last summer is that Amalfi Coast was so busy that actually now when I look at what like our top destinations in Italy are for this summer, it's a little bit more off the beaten path. It's Tuscany on the coast. It's Umbria instead of Siena. It is,
Mm.
Sardinia, which by the way will completely blow up by next summer. All these brands are coming in. Go this summer before everything gets more expensive and busy. So it's people who are looking for, yes, I want to go to Italy, but I want something that's a little bit off the beaten path. Another one is Bhutan, which is as like it's so far flung. People often don't even know how to get there, but I think it's that combination of sort of activity and hiking and being outdoors somewhere that feels very like safe and sort of away from the worries of the world, and spirituality and discovering some of that. Bhutan is not a place that was frequently booked. We're booking it left and right now, which is exciting.
Really? Didn't they have like a visa issue? Not an issue, but wasn't it hard to get in or
It
something?
was. It was very, they had limited visas and now they have done away with that. And they're also doing away with some of the daily fees that made it a relatively expensive destination to
Oh,
go to.
wow.
they've really protected that country. They've not wanted over tourism, and now they're starting to open up. Now, it's still never going to be over touristed because it's not easy to get to, and there's a limited number of flights that come in, really only from Bangkok or from Delhi. So it still takes effort to arrive, but they are starting to loosen up the requirements and welcome travelers in with a little more frequency, which is really cool. But it's also our backyard. Sometimes it's you're going to go to Bhutan, and sometimes it is like that. We saw the dude ranches take off, especially
Yeah.
during the pandemic. Not stopping that out west American trip, the sort of multi-gen reconnect with your family in a place that's very beautiful and very active is still a huge trend.
That's so. Someone on a podcast asked me recently, where would it be surprising if someone like a guest, sorry, if a listener was like, oh, I would expect her to have gone there. She's like, where haven't you been? That would surprise me. And I was like, literally the West, like American, like out West. Like I haven't been like anywhere past Colorado. Like I
Oh,
really need to do my own country. I'm really bad at that.
it's true. And that's something. I'm a travel professional, and during the pandemic when I started doing this, I was in Moab, and I was like, wait, I have flown all the way to the Atacama Desert in Chile to see some really cool stuff, and like, this is pretty good here
This
too.
is
Like, what was
cool.
it?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things that you realize that you didn't, you kind of overlooked, and you were so busy running off into like, what's the next big destination? Let me like get there first. I want to go to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, and then you look around and go, maybe I should do some of this too. It's a lot more affordable to get there with the flights.
Right.
Let's try it out.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a little bit of a maturity as a traveler. You go from your like backpacking days
Mhm.
when, everything about your home country is wrong and everywhere else is
Yeah,
amazing. And then you
yeah,
kind of settle into this, like, I dare I say, maturity as a traveler, where it's not so much about ticking off all the things. It's more about the like depth and the connection and
yeah.
the peace and the serenity that you feel because we're seeking that because our lives are so chaotic as you get older. So that's really interesting. I'll definitely have to add that to my list is make sure I
Gotta do
really
it.
like I was even like I want to go do like a classic New Hampshire 4th of July, like just something
Yeah,
so simple. Like what like,
yeah,
it's so many beautiful places. I did really like when you mentioned Bhutan because it takes that extra step to get there, right? You're either going to have
yes.
to go to Delhi, you're going to have to go to Bangkok, then from there you're going to have to get a flight. It's not easy. And so I do love the places that do take a little bit extra to get to
Mhm.
because you find like the place is a little bit less saturated
Yeah,
or it's a little bit less overrun. And I find that even in Costa Rica, like we will fly into San Jose and then we'll drive 3.5, 4 hours south past Jaco, past Playa
yeah,
Hermosa, past all the places. And then you land and you're like, oh, yeah, Costa Rica's busy if you stay kind of near the hubs. But if you
yeah.
go 4 hours south, so I think that's something really powerful is there's so many different types of travel for different types of travelers and also for different intentions for your trip. You could be the most like well-traveled person in the world, but your intention is to just really relax and really have like
Mhm.
a low-key weekend, and maybe that doesn't mean you're flying across the world. So I think that's all really really good advice. And now I'm going to put all those places. I need to get to Sardinia. All right. It's you said it first, right? Sardinia's going to blow up. We got everyone
It
get
is
there.
blowing up. But no,
That's
I
awesome.
do agree the whole thing about I love that we can maybe take some snobbery out of travel because sometimes it can seem like, especially when we're talking on travel podcasts and travel blogs, that it's like we're talking about these really exotic places like Sardinia and Bhutan, and that's great. Like I love those places. However, for a lot of people, like with their time and their lives and their budget, like maybe just going even to like a local hotel in their own city and doing a staycation for a night is kind of where it's at for them. And I like don't want to ever treat that like it's not travel because there's something so special about, again, feeling at home anywhere in the world, but also being able to like not go that far from home and get to be a different version of yourself. So if you're a mom, it's maybe doing that staycation with some girlfriends and sitting by the pool all day and having a bottle of rosé together and having a little checkout from your life so that you can check back in, but you didn't have to go that far. And so I think it's so nice to be able to pull that snobbery out of it and say, travel, there's different times to travel for different things, and every single bit of it is worth it.
100%. And I think we spoke about this earlier. Like it comes back to a mindset. You don't have to go to Thailand to get the same benefit of being in awe and wonder, of having a connection with a stranger, of having that sense of community with your girlfriends. Like you don't have to go across the world. You can just go to the next city or even just a
Yeah.
hotel in your hometown, like just like you said. So I think it really comes back to like that just being in a traveler mindset all the time and like being open to new things, like that can happen anywhere. And especially being, sensitive to, yeah, like you said, different budgets, different time constraints, different PTO levels, like all the things. So yeah, I think that's a super, super powerful note there. And I'd love to just kind of wrap that up right there because I think that was perfect. So I do always end these episodes with kind of last quick little questions that I don't share because I like to see what comes up. But before I do those, is there anything else that you'd love to share with our listeners or anyone who's like super interested in learning more about Fora? What would you like to say to them?
Yeah, well, okay, so if you're planning a trip and you're not using a travel advisor, you're doing it wrong. So come to Fora and we will help pair you up with a great travel advisor like Kelly to really upgrade your next trip, get you all those perks that Kelly was talking about with breakfast included and resort credits and upgrades. So yeah, let somebody else do the heavy lifting for you. If you are that person who is already planning your friend's travel, you should be a travel advisor. So come to foratravel.com where you can actually apply to become an advisor. And I would say on the application, be opinionated. We want to hear what people think. Travel advisors who are successful generally have really strong opinions about travel. Lots of right answers, but have some answers. So yes, either use a travel advisor or become a travel advisor and be a part of our community.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you. So, number one, what country or place has made the biggest impact on you?
Ooh, Costa Rica. Moving there, bringing home my crazy dog. It really was, that was like a big moment, like personally for me in my life. I also started Fora from there. I was fundraising with like iguanas crawling over the back of the seating screen. It is a place where I feel like I sort of like rebuilt my life a little bit. So it will always have a special spot.
So I actually, that was one of the questions that I was like, make sure to ask that. I forgot. Where were you in Costa?
In Guanacaste. So I was in
No
Las
way.
Cataluñas up in the north.
Amazing. I love it up there. We ran a retreat up that way back in, actually, we ran it the week the world closed down. We ran it the week before, and I landed back home on March 17th when like
Oh my
literally
gosh.
everything shut down.
I don't know. Maybe you should have stayed. It was pretty great down there.
I know. I was pregnant with my first though, so I was freaking out. So I had to get home. That's so cool. And so you went down from New York. You just moved your family down, just being
I
like, we have
did.
to, yeah.
We stuck it out in 2020. And then, because I was like, New York or nowhere. I was like
Right.
proud to be here supporting the city. And then the fall came around and I thought the kids would be back in school and everything started shutting down. And it was like, I mean, it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my kids. So I just said, we're really struggling right now. This is not like, we're not doing well. I've got to try and do something. So I just like pulled the cord. I went initially thinking we'll be there for a month in January. And like within a week, I was like, we're extending, we're staying. It was just, and then ended up coming back briefly because school told me I had to, and then going back in the summer. So that was really one of those times where like, I do really feel like, I rebuilt my business. I rebuilt my personal life there. I created memories for my kids that I hope are really impactful during a time where like, it was really challenging. And so not everybody can like pop off to Costa Rica, but boy, am I glad I did it and got the crazy dog out of it.
It's so funny when you got your dog from there. I think that's really a really powerful point, probably and a testament to all of the travels that you've done, or just not even travels, just leaps of faith, because it's really hard when you kind of build your identity around something, like you said, like New York or nothing. Like I have a lot of friends who are New York or nothing, and it's hard to then be like, wait, I might have to change that part of me because it's not suiting me right now, not forever, but right now. And I think that it's a huge testament to the faith and confidence that you have in yourself and your family and being able to take that leap. That's a scary move, and like good on you for doing that, because changing not just like your location, but also an entire, like, I'm a New Yorker. Like everyone knows what that is. Like New Yorkers love New York.
Oh man, I was down there with the monkeys and the lizards and the scorpions. But it really, I think it's transformative. Those moments are the ones where maybe it wasn't easy or comfortable, but it was the right choice. And definitely probably the most impactful place for me.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. So number 2 is your go-to travel accessory or must-have. What do you have to have with you when you're traveling?
Okay, I have this backpack. I don't spend a lot of money. Like my luggage, I have like Amazon Basics luggage. Like I'm not good with tech. I have like tangled cords everywhere. I
Right.
have this travel backpack. I spoke at a conference by Swiss Tourism like a few years ago, and they gave me this backpack, and I was like, this is my present. I can't live without this backpack. It fits it's my laptop, all of my stuff. It's very slim fitting. It doesn't look terrible. I didn't think of myself as like a backpack person per se for
Right.
traveling.
Right.
So no, I have this very slim Swiss designed travel backpack that I take everywhere, which is that's my
That's
ultimate
awesome.
travel
I
go-to.
know. I love when I get to travel by myself with no kids because I'm like, wait, all I need is this one bag. Like I don't need the diapers and the snacks and the crayons. It's so nice. So a slim fitting backpack's like
A
literally my
slim
travel
fitting
dream.
backpack. Yes, I wish this is the thing. I can't even remember right now what's the actual brand, but it fits all of my stuff. It doesn't look crazy. It's comfortable to wear, and I take it on every single trip.
Oh, that sounds like a dream. All right, number 3, last one is what's the biggest life lesson that you've learned while traveling?
I think my biggest life lesson is don't say no. Just say like go yes, don't go no. If it's a food you haven't tried, eat it. If it's a place you're not sure about, go. If there's an activity and you're thinking, should I sleep in today or should I get up and go do it? I think it's just, choose yes. Travel is about experiencing new things, and I think getting out of your comfort zone is what gives you those experiences that sort of broaden your mindset. So it's not always easy, but choose yes.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if you've heard of the group called the Yes Theory, and
No.
they're like a massive YouTube company, a group, I guess. And they have a podcast too, but it's all about it's their tagline is it's Yes Theory, but their tagline is seek discomfort. And so it's inherently like saying yes, like you said, like try the new food, do the new thing. Like it sounds like romanticized, but it's like that's actually stepping into an uncomfortable situation for you because it's new sometimes. Or sleeping in is a lot more comfortable than waking up for the 10-mile hike, but you
Yep.
don't get the view. You don't get the view in the end if you sleep in. So I think that reminds me of their brand where everything's like seek that discomfort, like say hi to that stranger and say yes. So that's one of my biggest life mottos is just go for it. Like you never know where it's going to lead you to, and you can always come back home to the safety of your own home, wherever that is.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah,
There's always your sofa, your pizza, and your Netflix will be there when you get home. Go do the things.
exactly. So if people are like, wow, Henley sounds super, super cool, I want to connect with her. And I know you mentioned the website before, but what's the best way for people to connect with you online?
Yeah. So you can find us for Fora at foratravel.com and Instagram at Hello Fora. You can find me at Henley V, which is mostly like my kids and my dog and me running around the world a little more frequently than I probably should be.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. I think our listeners are going to have so much value out of this. And especially, like you said, if anyone's interested in becoming a travel advisor, please check out your website, Fora, and learn more. And anyone can ask me too. You can ask me questions. It's been almost 6 months now. So happy to have a chat about it. And thank you. I appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Always fun to come and talk travel with anybody, but particularly a travel advisor.
Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Transform with Travel podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of inspiration, adventure, and exploration. If you felt inspired by this episode, please rate and review in whatever streaming app you're listening from. This allows us to spread the word even more and continue to serve up weekly doses of adventure. As always, we'd love if you could share the episode with someone in your life who you think will benefit from this conversation. Thanks so much for listening. This is your reminder to get out there and keep on exploring.